Hello everybody and welcome to this month's edition of Bluebeam Me Up. Bluebeam Me Up is a series of webinars we've been running over the past 18 months to focus on all things related to Bluebeam Revu. If you attended previous webinars, thank you very much for coming along again. Hope you found the content useful. And if you're new, welcome on board. There's a hell of a lot of content that we're going to cover with Bluebeam Revu under the specialist usage of an expert user. Last month's webinar focused on snagging list, and snagging list is a really common feature for Bluebeam Revu. One of the things that we touched upon in last month's webinar was using the spaces tool within Bluebeam. So this month we're going to dive into that a little bit deeper. Again, we're handing over to my expert and esteemed colleague Troy DeGroot. Troy is going to be using the spaces tool within Bluebeam Revu to create assemblies and manage takeoffs. So without further ado, I'm going to hand over to Troy DeGroot and he'll run you through the webinar.
Good afternoon, Bluebeamers. My name is Troy DeGroot and I'm the Bluebeam Professional Services Director with U Chapter 2. And I'm excited to partner with the team at Brighter Graphics to deliver world-class Bluebeam training and customization services, empowering you to get the most out of your Bluebeam investment. This month's webinar is focused on a helpful feature in Bluebeam called Spaces. I may have mentioned Spaces in the snagging list webinar last month, which is the most common use. Today, I'll show you how simple it is to create spaces, manipulate properties, and share some tips and tricks as well. After that, I can quickly show you several examples of how I've helped customers implement spaces into their workflows, including a trick I developed for creating assemblies with estimating. As always, I want to dive in, inspire you with new possibilities in Bluebeam Revu, elevate your skill set, and quickly get you back to work. So first, let's look at our snagging list drawing that we were looking at last week. An example of spaces here. I had each room of this hotel. I created a space for each room. If we look at our Spaces tab, which I have turned off, I want to show you how to turn that on. You're going to go to the black bar over here on your left panel, right click, go to Show, and come down here to Spaces, or Alt-S is the shortcut. Once we have that open, you can see in this panel, I have all of these spaces created for each individual room. What that allows me to do is when I place markups in each of these rooms, like these for example, it's going to tell me what room it belongs in. So if we look at the markups list down here, I can sort my markups list and all of the data that I've collected by spaces by just simply clicking on the top of the spaces column. Here you can see now it's broken out by room. These are all the changes or the fixes that need to happen in room 1254 and so on. So that's one example of what we're after. Now that you've seen the example for our snagging list, let's dive into another drawing and show you how to create those. So I'm going to come over here to just a basic drawing. I'm going to zoom in on an area here. Again, we're on our Spaces tab. I'm going to come up here to Add Space. And one tip I want to share here is we want to create these in order. So I'm going to start with 201 and follow down to 202, 203, and 204. If I do that, the naming of these will be a lot easier. Bluebeam will recognize the sequence and follow that. So to create a space, I'm just going to snap into the corner here, click and drag down to the opposite corner, and let go. And I'm going to name this Meeting 201. Say OK. And then I'm going to come down here. So the first way I showed you was to click and drag a rectangle, just like we would do area measurement or anything like that. The second way, I'm just going to pick, snapping in each one of these corners, pick. I like to get the the flat portion of that wall before the curve, pick there. Same thing here. And this one I'm going to double click because it's my last point. So I'm going to tell it that I'm done. And you can see here it popped up meeting 202. That's why I like to do these in order so I don't have to type that in or update it. Say OK. Go back up to 203. Again, snap into the corner, click and drag because this one's a rectangle. Let go. 203. OK. Come down. Do one more. Pick down here. Pick the end of our straight line and double click over here. Meeting 204. Say OK. So now that we have those created, there's a couple things that we can modify. First off, when I select any of these, so this one here, if I right click, I can create an area measurement directly from that space if I want to. Delete, cut, copy, paste, all of those. This is where you would rename it if you wanted to. And then what I want to show you is the properties. So in here, I can rename it here. Also, I can also change the color. So if I want this to be green, I can select that. Select what opacity I want to have in there. Select OK. Go on to the next one. Now you can see that's green. I can come in, change the color of this one. Maybe I want this one to be yellow. So on and so forth. While I have 202 selected, I skipped over that corner. So I'm going to come over here and fix this. I'm going to come in and add a control point. All I did was right click and add a control point, and I'm just going to come in here and snap to that corner a little better. Another trick there is to hold your shift key down and click on that line segment, and you can add a grip. So we can come in and just add a few more to make that a little bit better, better fit to that corner. Okay, 203, same thing, 204. Let's fix this corner. I'm just holding my shift key. I'm going to click on that line segment and then click and drag that grip over to the curve. Okay, got those all fixed up pretty quick. Let's change the color of 204 while we're at it, so all four are different. Again, right click on it, go to properties, change this, it will go red, and click off of it. So now that's how easy it is to create those. All we need to do now is start placing our punch symbols or whatever we want to put inside of those rooms and to separate that data and sort that data. Another setting that we can look at here is the highlight spaces. So if I turn that off, it's actually going to hide those spaces. They still exist. They just hide them and turn them off. Sometimes that's nice when you have area measurements on top of the spaces so that you can eliminate one of those at least. So that's here, this button. You can turn those on and off. Okay, so let's look at another trick here. We have meeting rooms 201 through 204. The 2 in front of there would indicate that it's the second floor, but let's show you how to create nested spaces. So I'm going to create a new one again, and just as an example, I'm going to come and draw another space. You'll notice that as soon as I touch one of the other ones, it disappears. These can't overlap, but they can. See how when I got to this side of that one, it shows up again. I can have them completely encompass the other one. So if I let go here, it's going to ask me to name that space. This is where I might say second floor. And then a little trick here, I like to put a space after it. So I'm going to click space and say OK. And now what you'll see is we've got second floor as a parent and then all the meeting rooms inside of it as child spaces. And you can keep going too if you want to use this for floors, for phases, different examples of ways that you can use that. Or maybe it's the west wing. I could create another one encompassing that whole thing and call this the west wing. And again, I'm going to put a space in there and say OK. And you can see how those start to stack on top of each other. And when I place, if I go back to my tool chest and I start placing, let's try some punch symbols. If I start placing these inside the rooms here, grab a couple different ones. This one I'm going to put outside of the room just to show you those different examples. But when I look at my markups list now, you can see that I've got west wing, and it automatically puts the dash in there. That's why I put the space. Sometimes I'll put a space in front of the name as well, so that I would spread those out a little bit. But you never want to put a dash in there yourself because it's going to double dash it. All right, so here you can see we've got west wing, second floor, meeting room 201. It's drilling that down and locating that exactly where it's at. This one here is only the west wing second floor. It's not in a room, so you can tell which one that one is. And west wing. And then there's going to be another one here that isn't in any of those spaces at all. So you can sort these. You can see here that 203 has 2 markups in it, and so on and so forth. So it helps us find all these and by giving it a location. So that's a punch example or a snagging list example. Another example would be estimating, or in this example, I've got fire, life safety, and security. Got a couple extra or a couple custom tools in here. And if I'm going around and placing these symbols, let's see what they are. I'm going to go in here and go to detail view. And now I have a little description for the subject of these tools. So now I know a little bit better what they are. So it's smoke detectors. We need one of those in each room right by the door. So we'll start to place those. Magnetic door holder. Probably need one of those as well in each room. So I'm going to place those here in each room by the doors. Strobe. So we might need a strobe light out here. And then a security camera. So let's say we have a security camera on the corner here, maybe one in the corner there. Maybe each room has one. So on and so forth. Now let's look at the markups list and see how that breaks down as well. So in here, if I click on the top of the subject column, it's going to show me all of my 180-degree cameras, and it will tell me where they're located. So this one's in the second floor. This one's in 201, 202, 203, and 204. And down here, the door holders, it's telling us there's one in each room. So if I go back and I click on spaces to organize those or sort them by space, now you can see in, I pull this out a little further, in West Wing, second floor, meeting room 204, there's 4 markups. We've got punch symbol here, got a smoke detector, a door magnet, and a camera, all inside of that room. So it does a great job there sorting and organizing all of our markups. What that also allows us to do is anytime we can add parameters down here to single out certain markups, so be more and more specific about the markups, that gives us opportunities to filter the list as well. So if we want to look at only things that are in 204, I can click on that. It's going to filter my list to only show those markups. And so what you're seeing here is it filtered my list, but it also filtered the drawing. All of the markups that are outside of that space or that filtered criteria are grayed out, and it's still showing these markups in full color here. So drawing attention to those and not the others. So we can filter our list by those spaces as well. So that's how easy it is to create these. Now let's have a look at a few examples. So we already looked at the snagging list, different examples here. Let's jump over to this development plan here. So for this one, I wanted to just show the same concept, but this time we're calling them phases. And so there's a couple different development areas here. And if I jump back to my spaces, add a space, and I'm just going to draw a box around here. Before I let go, I just wanted to note in that legend, it says I have 13 ramps, the double ramp, and 8 of the ramp handicap, radius one way. So those are 2 different types of ramps. These were tools that I built for a concrete contractor. So I'm going to let go now, and I'm just going to name this phase 1. And when I do that, it's automatically going to break out those counts by the space. So I'm going to say OK. It recognized that 5 of those are in phase 1, 4 of them are in phase 2. If I create another space over here, it's going to name it phase 2 automatically. If I go in order, I'm going to say OK. And now it added to my legend because I have phase 2. So there's 8 of them here, 5 in phase 1, so on and so forth. So you can break out large development plans like this by phases and do your quantities that way as well. The next example, similar. This is new development, or actually 3 different developments. And in here, what I've done is, for this example here, I created a space, which is this whole blue area, and then different proposed building sites. So here we've got a large retail chain, a restaurant, a couple of those. We've got retail here, and then residential, medium density residential, and then we have some low density residential down here. And it's all inside of that development that I've labeled with blue. And so using another tool called Quantity Link, which we're going to talk about next month in our webinar, I pulled the data from here into Excel and created this graph. So it's telling me the percentage of low residential and the percentage of medium and senior living and so on. So you're seeing those in a graph form that we can just paste onto this drawing. And this is a presentation that was done for these proposed developments. This is another one here, a large retail store, green space. We want to make sure we keep some trees and grass and some green space. So we drew those in here. Again, residential, medium density, a lot of businesses here, restaurants, so on and so forth. And a graph to indicate that development. Up here, another space in pink, and all the different types of buildings in here. And green space, again, there's a path around this little pond along the river. This is a garden store, and they have basically a farm out here, farm field. And so that's all green space, and a graph that includes that. So all we did was create a space in pink, and then we had specific tools for the different types of buildings. We drew those in here. And we were drawing over top of a satellite image that we took for our presentation. Next one, let's jump over here. This was an estimate that I put together for erosion control. So if we look back at a previous drawing here, this one I used phases as well. So first phase, they came in and put the silt fence in, the construction drive, some matting around this pond, and so on and so forth. And then second phase, on the next drawing, you can see they added in these drains. So we've got different pipe and inlets here. They put in another perimeter silt fence around the whole thing, and we broke those down by phase. So if I look at my markups list in this example, I've got phase 1 and phase 2. So it breaks out some of they might be the same materials, but they're in different phases. So that helps with estimating, it helps with delivery, all kinds of things when you can break those out by phase. And then the last one I want to show you is a trick that I developed a few years ago. I wrote an article for Bluebeam's Built blog on spaces, and in there I described how we can build assemblies using spaces. So in this example, I've got an elevation view of a building. This particular customer, I built tools for them to measure the glass panels. So glass 1, each one of these glass 1 types is tempered glass. So it's the ones that are closer to the ground so they don't break. And then above that, types 3 and 4 that were different colors or whatever the case might have been. And then I created count tools, custom ones. So instead of clicking on each side of each mullion to indicate a joint, I created one that accounts for 2. So I cut my clicks in half by just clicking on here once and getting each side. And then they also did, they wanted an area measurement for the entire square footage of that storefront. That's what they based their labor and shop time on. So we built that tool. And down here, you can see in my markups list that I've got a lot of different parts here. 53 different parts, G1, G4. I've got curtain walls also that I labeled CW, so curtain wall glass 2, so on and so forth. But it's just a big long list of panels and joints. So the trick that I developed was oftentimes on architectural drawings, they'll show this specific storefront, they'll give it a mark number. So that's exactly what I did with spaces. I go to my spaces panel, add a space, and then I can come in here and just draw a window around that storefront and give it a mark number. So storefront -10. And when I click OK, now it's telling me storefront 10, there's 15 parts. If I drag this up, you can see all of those individual parts for storefront 10. So now I have an assembly. I know all of the parts that are part of storefront 10 as a mark number. So that's just a trick that I developed a few years ago. Basically, I created a space just like I would on a floor plan, except it's bringing in all of those pieces for my elevation view of my storefront glass. All right, that's what I have to share today regarding spaces. I hope you learned a few things you can apply to your work immediately to help organize important information in your markups. Thanks for hanging out again this month. I'll turn things back over to Darren and Sean.
Hey guys, thank you very much for attending the webinar. As you can imagine, Troy's gone through a lot of detail. There are a few questions here, by the way, so we're running out of time, so I'm not going to be able to address all of them. So I will individually reach out to the people that have asked the questions. David, you've asked quite a number of questions there. So what I'll do, I'll come back to you on a one-to-one basis, and the same with the other people that have asked the questions. So just moving forward, a couple of things I'd just like to address before we cut the call. As ever, where all the support and resources are available on our website. A lot of people are now starting to subscribe and follow our YouTube channel, so thank you very much for that. There's hundreds of videos on that YouTube channel, and we're adding to them daily, so please subscribe and visit. Moving on to the next webinar is on quantity link. A commonly asked function, and something that's becoming more and more used within Bluebeam Revu is the quantity link. That webinar is on May the 30th, another Tuesday at 2 p.m. Just at this point, I'd like to just make people aware there will be a couple of other webinars that we'll be launching in May and beyond. One will be focused on onboarding and adoption, which will be primarily around the new cloud-based offering that Bluebeam have come out with. Those webinars will be available to all our customers, and we'll be starting sometime in June. Earlier than that, in May, we will be running a webinar which will focus on the upgrade promotion to drive people with dormant licenses of Bluebeam to upgrade to Revu 21, and quite a large, significant discount that Bluebeam have put into place of 50% for customers to move on to Revu 21. More details of that will be on our website and will be emailed to you shortly. But thank you very much for all attending, and hope you enjoy the rest of your afternoon. Thank you. Bye.